That's the one thing about our audience. They always want a new guy to break through the glass ceiling.
All you have to do is just be real.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. I am the jabroni-beating, pie-eating, trailblazing, eyebrow-raising, talking is done, you're out of your class, no sleep till Brooklyn, The Rock whips your ass. Woo!
I wish you and King would quit talking.
Welcome to Around the Ring, episode 36 for today, Monday, September 28th, 2015. I am your host, Dave Brown. You can listen to us each and every week on a number of different places. You can check out our Spreaker channel. You can find everything on our homepage, aroundtheringok.wordpress.com. You can also find us on Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, and iTunes, so please give us a listen. If you like what you hear, do me a favor, click a thumbs up, leave a review. Hell, if you don't like what you hear, leave a negative review. Still want to hear that. So that's how you can hear us each and every week. You can follow us on the social medias. We've got Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube channels. The handle for all of them is Around the Ring OK. And you can shoot me an email, aroundtheringok@gmail.com. Please do so. I would love to hear from you. I haven't heard from anyone yet. Kind of lonely. So yeah, we'll jump right into it. This week was, this last week in wrestling, really... Is it just me, or did it feel like not much happened? I mean, we had a, fairly not horrific episode of Raw. There were a few really good specials on the WWE Network. The Legends with JBL interviews with Eric Bischoff, and then Table for Three with Medusa, Ivory, and Molly Holly. Those were both great. I'll talk a little bit about those later. Real good episode of NXT. There was a good episode of Ring of Honor, though. The Ring of Honor shows that are, the first week or two after a pay-per-view are always weird. Because, they film stuff so far in advance that... It takes them a week or two to catch up, and to tell folks what happened in the pay-per-view on the shows. Plus, they're also promoting the pay-per-views still. They want people to go back and watch the replays and whatnot, which you can do the video-on-demand stuff through their website. So from that angle, I understand. It really, and I know I've said it before, but it reminds me of watching wrestling back in the day, pre-Monday Night Raw. Where you would, and this was in a lot of ways more, this happened more with WWE than WCW, because WCW / the NWA, when it was Crockett, had their Saturday night, WCW Saturday Night show, which always kind of brought you up to speed. Was the, filmed in a small studio, and in a lot of ways it kind of reminded me of NXT in the way it was set up, but they would, they did a good job promoting events and bringing you up to speed on what happened on the previous week's events, as far as pay-per-view goes. But in WWE, you'd see a pay-per-view, and then when superstars would come on, they would say, we'll talk, this great pay-per-view this last week, we'll talk about that next week. And they would do that for a week or two, and that's because they, had everything pre-recorded. So that's what Ring of Honor kind of always feels like to me. So we had that, and I actually watched a little bit of TNA, and I think I'll talk a bit about that first. And I did finally finish the WCW Fall Brawl 95. We'll talk a little bit about that toward the end of the show. And but let's talk about TNA. So I saw these pictures online of Jeff Hardy basically having to be EC3's bitch. And I was intrigued. So I decided, well, let me watch a little bit of Impact for this week. So I watched the opening segment with Dixie Carter in the ring, and she has the team TNA folks. She calls them out, which was Lashley, Bram, the Wolves, and Drew Galloway. And I gotta say, man, to give credit where credit is due, TNA has done really good things with Drew Galloway. They've also done great things with EC3. and the Wolves. TNA's got some really good talent, but Drew Galloway was a guy when he was Drew McIntyre in the WWE. He was in 3-man band with Heath Slater, which was one of the biggest freaking jokes ever. And Heath Slater sucks. I just can't stand Heath Slater. I mean, he has some funny bits, but he's just gross. But Drew Galloway he's charismatic. He is passionate. He's great in the ring. He cuts a hell of a promo. And I tell you what, WWE's loss was TNA's gain. They were smart to pick him up and to put him in this role. And, I would not be surprised if he ends up being the one to finally beat EC3, because EC3 is still undefeated. So they had this moment. They brought out Eric Young, who apparently had temporarily jumped ship. He aligned himself with the Global Force Wrestling team. They had, I guess, some kind of tag match the previous week to see who would have control of TNA, whether it would be Jeff Jarrett or Dixie Carter and company. And apparently some of the backstage dealings with this was part of the deal was Global Force would get this opportunity to do stuff on TNA programming, and as a result, Jeff Jarrett would let go of his remaining stock in TNA. So now Jeff Jarrett is completely divested of TNA, so he's no longer an owner at all. And there was the match, and Eric Young came out. Eric Young's playing this crazy heel, and which I don't like. Now, granted, my first real interaction with Eric Young was him as the world champion after having beaten Magnus last year. That would have been 2014, right around the time of WrestleMania, because there's the whole thing about they're just aping Daniel Bryan, which they kind of were. But to be fair, he had a much better title run than Daniel Bryan did, and he was really good as this kind of underdog Daniel Bryan-esque babyface. I enjoyed it. I liked him, but nothing really came of it, and he eventually turned heel and blah blah blah. So he gets in the ring spouting off about how he's got this ironclad contract and yada yada yada, and he's carrying the leg of this guy whose name I have forgotten, who was a soldier who lost his leg in overseas, desperately wanted to be a wrestler, and then I'm pretty sure it was Bully Ray and Devon who actually trained him for free, which was super cool. And so Dixie sets up a match with him. Well, first of all, I want to know when did Eric Young get those ugly ass tattoos on his shoulder? I mean, he got some ugly ass looking tattoos, and I'm pretty sure they weren't there a while, a year ago, almost a year ago when he was their champion. But anywho, so I watched a little bit of that match. It was pretty awful. I fast forwarded through most of everything else. I got to the EC3 Rockstar Spud World Title match. Watched part of that. And then it ended with EC3 telling Jeff Hardy to end Spud's career. Hardy refused to do it. Matt Hardy came out to make some kind of save, and then EC3 tells Jeff, "You need to hit your brother." Jeff says no. And then there was slight brawl, and that was kind of it. The main event of the night was a five-way match, Fatal Five. Yeah, it was a match to determine the new number one contender. It was an elimination style match with Bram against Eddie Edwards, Davey Richards, Lashley, and Drew Galloway. And I watched part of it. I fast forwarded through a lot of it. It ended up Galloway got the final pin over Lashley, and he's the new number one contender. So then the show was going to go went off the air with EC3 going in the ring, calling out Jeff Hardy to fire him or something. I just didn't watch that, and that shit was ridiculous. So, I don't know what it is. I mean, the production looked really good. I don't know where this was filmed. I think it was in Florida at Universal Studios. The setup looked really good. The crowd was super into it. So those were all big pluses. It was just that I don't know, man. I just can't get into it. I have tried, and it just didn't happen. One interesting thing was Kenny King was on there, and now we know Kenny King is back in Ring of Honor after All-Star Extravaganza. Not last weekend, the weekend before. So how long ago this was taped. I guess TNA's got a Bound for Glory pay-per-view coming up. I'm taking a wild guess that Drew Galloway will be challenging for the world title. At some point, I would like to see Galloway win the belt. I think he's going to be a good world champion. He could end up being the last world champion that TNA has. Who knows? It's hard to tell. But that was, I tried. I tried. TNA it's such a different product in so many ways. I think a lot because of the six-sided ring, their content and the way they do things is really still is WWE light. It's storylines that you could just see happening in WWE, and I'm sure they've each pilfered from each other. But it's not like when you watch, say, NXT or Ring of Honor or especially Lucha Underground, when you're watching something that is very different from Raw and SmackDown. TNA Impact feels like a poor man's version of Raw. And apparently it is official that there's only a couple months left that TNA will be on Destination America. Once it is done, it's basically going to be on through the end of the year. I think if I remember hearing correctly, they have essentially made a deal where Destination America has agreed to leave it on the air while TNA tries to find another network. TNA really, they should have taken the WGN offer from months ago instead of Destination America. They would have had more money, they would have had better exposure. I don't know if it would have helped, because WGN is certainly a much bigger network than Destination America. I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen? It's all kind of sad, really, because I don't want to see these people lose their jobs, but by God, their product sucks. And it's just personal opinion. I know this. And it's ironic because I'm a big WCW mark, and after having gone back and watched some WCW old programming lately, a lot of that was just awful. It was combinations of some really amazing stuff surrounded with some big piles of horse poo. I wish TNA luck. I hope they can turn things around. I don't know if they can. The company needs a huge makeover. Dixie Carter needs to go away. The best thing that would happen to it, I think, is for someone to come in, buy it out, get it a new network, get it a new name, rebrand it, rename it, strip all the titles, keep most of the roster, bring in some new roster people, and start over. That would be the best thing to do. And get rid of that damn six-sided ring. God, that thing is awful. And the one time, I know AAA has it down in Mexico, and I watched one of their pay-per-views recently, and I just don't even like it there. Just no. I can't do it. let's go ahead and real quick talk about Ring of Honor this week, because it's kind of short before we get into Raw. So this was the first post All-Star Extravaganza show, though you wouldn't know it based on any of the matches or anything that happened in the ring, because they really didn't reference any of that. Like I mentioned earlier, they did talk about it being a big event and having repercussions, and they talked a lot about the getting the replays. But they really, other than that, that was it. The first match was Silas Young versus Michael Elgin. There was a lot of cool stuff in this match. This was actually a lot of fun. At one point, Elgin he was on the second rope, going to do the suplex thing where kind of like Cesaro does, where your opponent's on the apron and you're standing on the second rope and you suplex him over. But he did that to Young, but instead of doing a suplex, turned it into a Falcon Arrow, and it was awesome. The match ended with Elgin power bombing Silas Young into the barricade on the outside, and then giving him another power bomb in the ring for a 3 count. Elgin is really getting over big time as a babyface right now. He was in New Japan in the G1 Climax tournament, apparently did quite well there. He's being called Big Mike now. He's letting his beard grow out, so it's getting big, and he wears like the kind of boxing robe that boxers would wear on his way to the ring, which I think he's done for a while. But it's working. It's a much better gimmick for him than when he was Angry Mike. So I like it. It'll be interesting to see where they go with him. We then had Caprice Coleman versus ACH. Good match, lots of high-flying moves. ACH got the win with the 450 splash. I forget what he actually calls it. After the match, as they were leaving, King Carino grabs Coleman for an interview. He asks about what was in the envelope a few weeks ago that Prince Nana gave him. So a few weeks back, there was Caprice Coleman had a match with Cedric Alexander. And it was one of those kind of lead-up matches to All-Star Extravaganza. And in the match, at one point, I forget who won, but Moose came out and eventually clocked Coleman with a wrench. And after that happened, and he and his manager, whose name I have completely forgotten at the moment, are kind of celebrating, Prince Nana comes out and hands Coleman an envelope that was just stuffed. Obviously, it looked like it was stuffed full of cash. And so Coleman says that in the envelope was money, which he kept, and a letter from Nana, which he read many, many times. And then eventually he looked in the camera and says, you know, after recent events, after these losses, Nana, I think you're right. I think you're right, and walks off. Never told us what was in the envelope other than the money and a note. Didn't say what the note said, but it was, it was a nice little bit in that it continued the storyline. And see, one thing that I think Ring of Honor does do well is they spread their storylines out. So the fact that they didn't touch on, Silas Young's match at the pay-per-view or ACH's match or any of that stuff, they have this other story that they brought forward. And the other big thing is there were a bunch of New Japan stars on this show which were in the main event. So the main event we had, which was Roppongi Vice and Okada, who are part of a faction in Japan called Chaos, against Hiroki Goto and the Briscoes. Huge pop for Okada. This man is so over, it's not even funny. It was a fun match. It was actually a really good freaking match. you go back and watch it. Just go find it and watch it. Briscoes and Gatto won. Jay hit a Jay Driller on one of the Roppongi Vice guys, and it was funny. And throughout this match, it's like during the announcements, pretty much everyone except Gatto or Goto or whatever his name is got big pops. With Okada getting the biggest, but the Briscoes were over. Roppongi Vice was pretty over. But once the match started, anytime Okada was in there, like he was in there against Jay Briscoe, and Jay Briscoe is one of the most over guys in Ring of Honor. And as they were exchanging blows, the crowd was saying yay for Okada and boo for Briscoe. I thought that was interesting. Apparently, Okada did an interview. Heard about this on another podcast. He did an interview recently with Rolling Stone, and he was asked, if WWE was interested, would you ever consider going? And he said no. New Japan is his home, and that's where he's going to stay. So, good for him. I like the fact that there are wrestlers out there that are finding success outside of WWE. And I'm hoping that eventually we will get some other organizations that start to really do well, and fan interest in just wrestling in general, but especially in these other organizations will grow. I think, Lucha Underground is going to be a big part of that, and we'll talk about that great news here in just a second. But that was Ring of Honor, fun show. Next week there's a main event that I already forgot. Fuck, what was it, dude? My memory sucks anymore. I'm amazed I can remember as much as I do. In fact, sitting down to getting ready to do this, because I literally just finished watching Fall Brawl this morning, I was thinking to myself, wait, what the hell happened last week on Raw and everything? Thank God I take notes, because if I didn't, I would not know what to talk about. That's just... Getting old sucks, kids. Let me tell you this. Getting old sucks. And I'm not really even that old. I'm the big 4-0. I hate to see what's going to be like when I'm 50, 60, if I make 70. Because, I'm a fatty, I'm out of shape. But, who cares? The biggest news really this week was the announcement that Lucha Underground has a second season officially. The budget apparently has been cut, but Lucha Underground is coming back, praise Jesus, for season number 2. I really think Lucha Underground could be the key to people really getting into wrestling again. Lucha Underground and also NXT, because it's, especially Lucha Underground, it's so good and it's so unique and it's so nothing we've ever seen before, and that I think is great. So season 2 coming back. I cannot wait to see the likes of Son of Havoc, Angelico, Ivelisse, Prince Puma, Mil Moritez, Pentagon Jr., Vampiro, the whole kit and caboodle. But, this does beg the question, who will be with Stryker on commentary? Because I'm guessing that now that Vampiro has gone all manager, Pentagon Jr. master thing, that he will not be doing commentary anymore. Which makes me sad, because he and Matt Stryker are so good. So freaking good on commentary. Oh, God, excuse me. Sorry. But we'll find out, I guess. It will start airing in 2016. Apparently they're going to start filming in December. I'm just super excited. I mean, this is... Any wrestling fan out there should be stoked that this is coming back. Absolutely stoked. And with all of that, let's see, what do we want to talk about next? Let's go ahead. You know what? We'll leave Raw for the end. Let's talk about NXT. So NXT this week, pretty good little episode. They changed the opening again. I actually really like how they do this. They go in and they edit it depending on, taking out people who've moved up to the main roster, adding people, jockeying it around. So they've gone in, they've added Ty Dillinger, Bull Dempsey, and the Vaudevillains, and there's a little bit longer thing of Apollo Crews. There's Eva Marie, gross. There's a shot of Bayley hugging Izzy from last week, and then the Four Horsewoman moment from TakeOver Brooklyn, which they've had in there, but those are kind of the newer things. Speaking of the gross red one, we had what I can only loosely call a match. Eva Marie versus Carmella opened the show. It was so funny. When Eva Marie's walking down the aisle, she goes past Izzy's family, and Izzy is the Bayley superfan, who is always right on that corner to the wrestler's right as they're walking down the aisle, right before you turn to get to the stairs onto the ring. Her family always sits there, and there was someone who was kind of dressed up like Eva Marie behind them, who Eva Marie, high-fived, but Izzy just sat there. She was not impressed, man. It was hilarious. This little girl just looking at her like, oh, you skank. It was fantastic. And they showed a little clip of an Eva interview that happened after last week, and with the botch fest that was, she didn't know how to kick out. God damn it, her interview, as bad as she is in the ring, and she's pretty fucking awful in the ring, her interviews are worse. It just cringeworthy, painful. Or I should say, when they put the NXT Women's Championship on this woman, it is going to destroy that division. And that is really sad, considering everything they've done to build this up. My question is, if Triple H is the one ultimately with control of NXT, and he's the one who built up, Paige and Emma and Charlotte, Becky, Sasha Banks, who is coming in? Is it who is coming in telling him you've got to push this Eva Marie chick? I don't understand that. Here's a guy who obviously knows good women's wrestling. He's had match of the year performances out of a lot of these ladies, and this stupid hoe comes in, and I shouldn't say that. I don't know her personally. Forgive me. But this model comes in, and she is awful. So someone up higher, I've got to believe that someone higher up than Triple H is telling Triple H, you've got to push this bitch. You got to push her and push her to the moon, because we are banking on her on Raw. We are banking on her to be the next big thing. And all I got to say is, you can't polish a turd. Yep. So there were some great chants. There's a "you can't wrestle" chant, and at one point Eva had Carmella down for a pin. Carmella kicked out, and the crowd started chanting, "That's a kick out," which cracked me up. This was so painful to watch. Even she looked more concerned about her hair and keeping it in place than fighting. She's supposed to be in a ring, paid to fight, and the broad is worried about her hair. She won the match via count out. It sucked. It just sucked. Carmella is someone who could improve, so why they're not focusing on her, I don't know. But this was pretty fucking awful. and hold that thought. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Phone was ringing. And, so, yeah, where were we? Okay, God. Not only am I old, I'm fat. Going up and down the steps quickly really makes me out of breath. Oh, yeah, so, Carmella could get better. Eva Marie sucks. Just done. There was a Bayley Sasha Banks vignette. And I'm shaking my head. How they can go from the greatness that is Bayley and Sasha Banks to the utter, complete dog shit that is Eva Marie. I don't know if she's screwing somebody. That's all I can think. Either that or someone up high has the biggest boner for her. It's not even funny. I mean, God, they've had a hard-on for John Cena for 10 years. Otherwise, his dumbass wouldn't still have the job he has. Jesus. So yeah. Wow. God damn it, I'm out of breath. This is pathetic. Up next, we had Bull Dempsey versus Tyler Breeze. Bull is so awesome. This is so funny, and I know I've talked about this before. I hated Bull Dempsey when he first started out. Hated him. And now he's fantastic. I enjoy the hell out of him. I enjoy Tyler Breeze, too. Tyler's great. At a few points early in the match, Bull kept messing with Tyler's hair, and it freaked him out. At one point, there was a Bullfit Works chant. And, it was a pretty good back-and-forth match. Breeze got the win after using the ropes for leverage for a pin on Bull Dempsey. This is just going to be the beginning. You know it is. This is just the beginning. They showed some highlights of the shows that happened last week in Texas. That was kind of cool. We then had Kana was introduced, and when William Regal introduced her to come out for her contract signing, he introduced her as Kana. The graphic showed Kana. She walks out, and then it changes to Asuka, which looks like you would pronounce it Asuka, but it's pronounced Asuka. I love that they called her Kana at first. And this whole thing with changing people's names, I think in a lot of cases sucks. Kenta should have stayed as Kenta. Kana should have stayed as Kana. Finn Balor's actually a good name. And the way when they introduced him showing Finn Balor on the screen and then changing it to Prince Devitt, or showing Prince Devitt and then changing it to Finn Balor, the biggest flaw with that is they didn't show that on television. They did in the in that Getting to Know the Demon set of videos that they did, that little mini documentary about Finn Balor. They did actually show the unedited, and it was great. And the crowd, it said Prince Devitt, and the place went apeshit. And I can understand changing Uhaa Nation to Apollo Crews. And at least he got a decent name, man. Sure, okay, yes. It's a name that is based off of two very high-profile black characters in movies. But it's not like a name like Cassius Ohno. Chris Hero went from being known as Chris Hero to Cassius. God damn it! Cassius Ohno, which I know is a play on Muhammad Ali, and I don't know what the last name is a play on, but that name sucked, especially for a tall, pasty white dude. Hideo Itami is not awful, and you can chant it, it's easy to pronounce, but Kenta would have been much better. Asuka is... Hey, they just should have let her stay Kana. I mean, Samoa Joe got to keep his name. I'm sure that was part of his deal. He was probably like, look, motherfuckers, I'm not changing my name. I am a multi-time world champion. I have headlined pay-per-views. The biggest pay-per-view buy rate that my former employer ever had was because of me. I had a legendary feud with CM Punk that you have referenced before. I'm not changing my name. I'm sure that's how that went down. But yeah, so Asuka comes out. She is super dressed up. Looks just all professional. Looks so excited. Just jumping around. Super, super excited. Dana Brooke and Emma come out looking like xenophobes, like crazy. When they come out, there's an Asuka's gonna kill you chant. And they start, of course, talking to her, Asuka, like she is a dumb child, very slowly. That was pretty painful. But the one thing I will say, it got great heat on Dana Brooke and Emma. And they're getting a lot of good heat. They eventually tell Asuka to leave. Asuka looks all sheepish, leaves the ring, walks down at the stage. She just turns her head around, looks at them, and gives the most sadistic, devilish grin I have ever seen. Like, oh, bitches, it's on. I'm going to kill you and eat you for breakfast. So that's going to be a good start of a feud, I think. That's going to be cool. We then had Tyler Breeze backstage. I love these things. He's walking backstage and they run up to him. Tyler, may we get a word? And he acts all flustered, like, God, what? And they say, they ask him if he'd heard about his match at the next TakeOver special against Apollo Crews. And he says, yes, I've heard about it. What about it? And then Crews shows up, all happy and smiley, and they talk for a minute, and then he sits there. He's like, okay, go ahead, Tyler. And then he just keeps kind of standing in his way before he jokes and tells him to go ahead and go. Nice little setup. That should be a phenomenal match. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Looking forward to that. I hope the whole thing with him and Bull Dempsey isn't over. But poor Tyler, man. Tyler is this guy who keeps getting forgotten. He is like the forgotten workhorse of NXT. And I'm going to agree with Solid Monster that NXT needs a secondary title, and it needs to go around Tyler Breeze's waist. I say make it a television title, even though I know they're not on television per se. But the NXT TV Championship, I think, would be perfect. And plus, it's a nice little nod to the NWA and WCW. We then had... What happened after this? Oh, Kyle Edwards was back with another kind of update on the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. So it looks like in the semifinals, it's going to be Baron Corbin. Right now in the semifinals are the teams of Baron Corbin and Rhino, and Dash and Dawson. The next two semifinal teams will... Finn Balor and Samoa Joe are going to face Colin Cassidy and Enzo Amore next week on NXT, so that should be great. The Hype Brothers are going to go against Jason Jordan and Chad Gable at a house show in Florida. Apparently that actually happened this weekend, and Gable and Jordan won, so that's good. My thoughts on this... There's a part of me that really wants Cass and Enzo to win the whole thing. I think Balor and Joe are going to win it, and it's going to then set up for a Balor-Joe feud for the NXT Championship. But I really would like to see Cass and Enzo do it. Let's see. It was in time for the main event. We had Blake and Murphy challenging the Vaudevillains for the tag team titles. This was their rematch. So at the beginning of the match, Alexa Bliss tries to get involved. Blue Pants comes out and runs her off. We don't see either of them for the rest of the match. This was a really fun match. I actually like these teams, and I think they work really well together. There was nothing spectacular about it, but it was fun. And that's what you get these guys in the ring. You're pretty much guaranteed a fun, maybe not spectacular, but a fun match. And they did that. The Vaudevillains retained with their Whirly Dervish finish, and it was fun. We go off the air with a couple of backstage interviews, Cass and Enzo, and then Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. Backstage promos, I'm sorry. about their match next week, and it was really good. They all looked at the camera, talked straight to it. This was freaking awesome. They were talking right to us. And one really nice moment is Samoa Joe got in a "you can't teach that." So it was great way to build up the match for next week. Wow, here's a thought. Tell people a week in advance what the match for the next week is going to be, and then hype it up. Wow, who would ever think to do such a thing? It's going to work, though. I'm looking forward to that. So that was NXT. So let's go on to Raw. We've already talked about the fun stuff for this week. And then we'll get to the flashback segment, which I guess that's what I'll call it when I talk about the old stuff. So Raw this week opened not with Seth Rollins doing a 20-minute promo, not with the Authority doing a 20-minute promo. It opened with the Wyatt family coming out for an in-ring promo. So show opens up, totally different start. Immediately I'm happy. In the midst of this, he gets interrupted by Roman Reigns. Reigns comes down. Reigns just looks broken, just an absolute broken spirit. Reigns tells Wyatt, "Look, let's just have a fight, you and me, one-on-one. We don't even need a ref. Let's just do it." Wyatt sends Braun Strowman and Luke Harper out of the ring. Brawl between Reigns and Wyatt, a good brawl. Eventually, Luke Harper and Strowman get involved. Dean Ambrose comes out. Brawl. Then Randy Orton comes out. Really good brawl. That's how we opened Raw. It was a great opening. I really enjoyed this. It makes you wonder why they used why they used Chris Jericho the night before at the pay-per-view. Also makes you wonder what happened to all those reports about Randy Orton, the beatdown being them writing him off of TV for a while. Maybe it's just for a week. Maybe he took a week off. But that was the opening. I really enjoyed that opening. This was an interestingly weird Raw in a lot of ways, and I enjoyed it. I know the ratings tanked, but it was the little things in the show that I enjoyed, not kind of the big moments, and we'll kind of get to those. We then had a Seth Rollins Night of Champions vignette, and then you see Seth Rollins backstage in front of the Authority's dressing room office. He knocks on the door. He walks in, his face looks terrified, and he is greeted by Corporate Kane, fresh with darker hair and a shiny spirit. He's all super smiley. "Hey, Seth, how's it going?" And when Seth asks him about the night before, he's like, "What are you talking about? I just got back today." Rollins did a great job in this segment, looking super flustered, like he doesn't know what the hell is going on. And then Kane tells him, smiling the whole time, "Oh, hey, by the way, I set it up for your U.S. title rematch to be tonight against John Cena." And Rollins says something like, "Yeah, okay, I'm going to go wait for Triple H and Stephanie." I enjoyed the hell out of this. I thought this was funny. I thought it was great. I thought Seth Rollins being freaked out, because he wasn't doing the whole pussy heel thing, or the chicken shit heel. He was legitimately angry coming in, and then just freaked out by what he saw. And Kane was great, man. You give that guy the right material, and he does a really good job. I enjoyed the hell out of this. We then had Stardust and the Ascension versus Neville and the Lucha Dragons. It's a rematch from the pre-show match they had at Night of Champions. Sin Cara botched the hell out of a thing he was going to try to springboard off the top rope. He just slipped and fell. And He also hit his head really hard on one of the announce tables when he did one of the dives through the ropes. Neville and the Lucha Dragons get the win. It was a fun match. Lots of jumping around. Those guys actually work pretty well together. Cody Rhodes is great. The Ascension have their moments, but they work really well with the Lucha Dragons, and Neville is fantastic. So that was fun. We then had Seth Rollins backstage. He finally finds Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, who act like they have no clue what is going on. They basically were like, Kane's back? What? And Triple H eventually tells Rollins that, look, you need to focus on your rematch tonight. We'll take care of Kane. We then have highlights of Kevin Owens winning the Intercontinental title. And then we get Ryback's music. Ryback comes out and has a match with Bo Dallas. Kevin Owens on commentary. Before the match, Bo gets on the mic and congratulates Kevin Owens. And at one point, Kevin says, I'm sorry, Byron. I'm doing my best to ignore you right now, which was hilarious. Ryback got the win. Owens then attacked Ryback after the match. There was a brawl. Ryback actually gets him up for the shell shock, but Owens escapes and runs away. Nice setup. I think they're going to have a rematch at some point. The title's going to stay on Owens. I think he's going to... the way I would book Kevin Owens, he holds that title probably until WrestleMania. I say he holds that belt in the Royal Rumble. He's in the Rumble. He is doing a great job. He throws out a whole ton of people. Looks like he is about to potentially win the whole thing. And out comes Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn throws him out of the Rumble. And then Sami obviously doesn't have to win the Rumble, but gets Kevin Owens out of the Rumble. They feud. Sami challenges for the Intercontinental title, and at WrestleMania, he wins the Intercontinental title. I think one that makes the title seem important. It's going to be a great feud because the two of these guys have excellent matches, have a great history, and it just will be awesome. So let's hope they don't fuck this up and they do this right, because Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are fucking money. So just go with it. I know they don't look like your prototypical superstars you guys look for, but screw that. They are money. Just do it. What was next? Oh, we then have just highlights of the Charlotte-Nikki Bella match from Night of Champions. Ric Flair comes out, cuts a Ric Flair promo. But poor guy is slurring. It was interesting. He was slurring like crazy, but he didn't look drunk. So I don't know if the poor guy's just old and beaten to shit, or if he has something that is causing that. I don't know, but it was kind of sad. He said that the proudest moment of his career was watching Charlotte win the Divas Championship. I think that's probably very true. Charlotte, Paige, and Becky Lynch come out. Charlotte is barely holding it together, and Flair is crying. So, the tears, they do a-floweth in this family. Charlotte says through all this she has gained 2 best friends. And to Paige, she says, look, I have followed in your footsteps. Paige gets the mic and proceeds to cut a fantastic promo. It's been called a pipe bomb. I don't know if it's quite a pipe bomb, but it was a scathingly awesome promo. Paige just rips into into Charlotte. Rips into the entire Divas division. Says a lot of the things that, fans have been thinking for a long time. And it's great. She even says everyone knows why the Bellas are where they're at. And it was fantastic. She just ripped into all of them, and left the ring. She was like, boom, I'm done. The Bellas music hits, they come out. Nikki cuts a great bitch promo walking down to the ring. And tells Charlotte, okay, you're about to have a match with my sister. This segment was fantastic. I loved the hell out of it. Nikki was the perfect stuck-up high school cheerleader bitch. Paige was the angry, angry loser, nerd punk rock kid going off on everyone. It was really good. Again, I'm hoping they don't fuck it up because they have a tendency to fuck good things up. Charlotte and Brie Bella had a match. Charlotte won by submission. Not much to it. Sheamus and Mark Henry had a match, which Sheamus won. Henry did again some good offense, but it was really fucking boring. Corporate Kane was backstage with Triple H and Stephanie. Kane said he has no memory of last night being involved in Night Champion. Steph says, I need you to give it back. And she's holding out her hand. And Kane just looks at it, smiles, and gives her 5. And still acting like he has no clue what the hell she's talking about. And Stephanie says, no, I don't need you to give me 5. I need you to give me back your mask. And Kane's like, what? And he looks at the glass. Oh, it's missing. And then in a very menacing voice says that if it is missing, you have a very big problem. He got all menacing in her face and then went back to being super happy. Stephanie looked freaked. Triple H just kind of looked irritated. Paige was backstage, kind of standing there fuming. She gets approached by Natalya, who she had also name-dropped in her promo earlier, saying, does she even work here? And Paige really has the whole bitchy thing down. Natty tries to give her some advice. Paige calls her a mother hen. It was really good. Just a very good job. We then had the New Day and Rusev against the Dudley Boys and Dolph Ziggler. And, okay, something really good about this is they're walking down to the ring. Xavier Woods is still selling going through that table from the night before. There were some really strong New Day sucks chants. Xavier's face and reactions to the chants was great. He was, why? Biggie, when they're doing their little promo before the match, starts saying, we must build a wall around Dudleyville. And it was so funny because he was basically mimicking a Donald Trump stump speech. And it was great. If you haven't seen it, you just need to go back and watch it. It was just fantastic. Where am I going with this stuff? And then Rusev comes into the ring. He's doing his normal little gyrations and whatnot. And the New Day's kind of following him along as he's doing his thing. It was hilarious. Rusev and the New Day get the win after. So Xavier Woods gets on the apron after he's been doing his shenanigans. Dolph Ziggler super kicks him off the apron, during which he it's great. After he gets super kicked, Xavier kind of throws up his trombone, and then Summer Rae catches it just perfectly. After that kick, then Rusev kicks the holy hell, super kicks the holy hell out of Ziggler, gets the pin. Dudley's will challenge at the Madison Square Garden house show that's going to be on the network for the titles. So we'll see. I really hope they don't win at that show. They need to keep those belts on the New Day. They need to keep the Dudleys running, but they are building up that house show. That's the one that will have the Big Show going up against Brock Lesnar, which we will talk about in a little bit. We then have Naomi versus Natalya. Paige was looking on backstage, and poor Natty was just not looking good in this match. I mean, she's been on hiatus for a long time, taking care of Tyson Kidd. It was a really slow-looking match. Naomi got the win after hitting her butt move when Sasha Banks distracted Natty. It was just... Natty's better than this. Naomi's not that great. So it was just... It was not good. We then have Stephanie and Triple H backstage with Rollins again. Triple H looks pissed. Rollins is freaking out. When Trips finally just loses it and he goes off on Rollins, it is going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to Triple H just losing it and beating the holy piss out of Seth Rollins someday. It's going to be fun. We then have the worst thing in this entire fucking show. And I will tell you why in a moment. We have the Big Show versus Cesaro. There are a whole bunch of Cesaro section signs. But yeah, this crowd really kind of sucked. The big moment of the match, Cesaro suplexed Big Show into the ring over the rope. And after which, Big Show hit a knockout punch for the win. What the fuck, man? Why are they doing this to Cesaro? And just to make it worse, Big Show then cuts a promo on Brock Lesnar standing over fucking Cesaro. Why? Why? Yes, they need to make Big Show look good for his match going in, against Brock Lesnar. He needs to look strong going into that. Why feed him up to Cesaro? Just why? It doesn't make any sense. Why not give him Mark Henry? Any number of other people, but Jesus fucking Christ, man. Cesaro is one of the most talented people they have on that roster in that ring, and they keep shoving a gigantic, unlubricated penis up his ass. And I don't understand why. I really don't. Why are you fucking this guy so hard, and not in a good way? It's so frustrating as a fan. This was awful. And up to this point, other than a few moments, I'd really enjoyed this show. And then I saw this and I thought, what the fuck? And yes, again, I know, we gotta make Big Show look strong, look like a viable contender against Brock Lesnar. But he's not. Let's be honest. Big Show is not what he used to be. He sure isn't the guy I saw on Fall Brawl that I just watched. We'll get to that in a minute. But the guy can barely move. Yeah, he's fucking Sasquatch, which he reminds us on a momentary basis. It's like a few minutes go by in a match and he screams, "I'm a giant!" No shit, you're a giant, dude. We can see. But let us not forget that the last time Brock Lesnar and the Big Show feuded, Brock Lesnar made him look like a bitch. Just demolished the guy. And so we're supposed to take this now over a year later seriously? Because Brock is that much better in this time and Big Show is that much slower and suckier? Big Show, as a fan, thank you for all your years and everything you've done. Going back to WCW, what you've done in WWE, your contribution has been fantastic. But at this point, you fucking need to leave. This is awful. And what's going to suck is clueless Vince McMahon is freaking out right now because the ratings for Raw keep tanking. Well, ratings for Raw keep tanking because they keep doing shit like this. You keep getting some, jamoke like the Big Show going over Cesaro, who has a ton of heat, good heat. He is super over, and you screw him. And of course, being in front of a shitty crowd the way they were, just a shitty casual fan crowd, no less. Gross. So Vince McMahon is freaking out because the ratings are going to suck. So what's he probably going to do? He's going to go back to what he thinks is going to work, what he thinks people want, which is Big Show, which is Kane, which is Cena, which is Sheamus. And we don't fucking want that, man. 10 years. 10 long motherfucking years. We've had John Cena being world champion. We don't want it anymore. John Cena is U.S. champion. This year has been entertaining as hell, yes. But we don't want him in the main event, man. We don't. Not in pay-per-views. A main event of Raw. Absolutely. Main eventing Raw with a U.S. Open Challenge. Fuck yeah. That would be great. Being the guy in the company? No. Sheamus? No. He's boring as hell. Yes, people are screaming at him because he fucking sucks. Kane, right now, this whole dual, I'm Demon Kane, no, I'm Corporate Kane, and I'm happy-go-lucky. That's kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie, I'm enjoying that. But other than that, I mean, we've been watching Kane since the late 90s, for fuck's sake. As long as Big Show, man. Kane at least can still move. Poor Big Show. He just lumbers so slowly, and I worry about the guy's health. Because you don't see a lot of dudes that large age well. It just doesn't happen. So yeah, Vince McMahon is having panic attacks because the ratings suck so bad lately. And instead of building up new stars, instead of letting it go through some growing pains, he's just going to go, well, let's just go to the same thing that's worked for the last 10 years. Never forget the fact that the last 10 years has slowly and steadily lost audience share. Lost fans. Because the shit's been, at times, horrifically boring. So, why not do what you did with the new generation? When you told Hogan and Savage, hey guys, man, your time has come and gone. I gotta push these new guys. I gotta make Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels and Diesel and Razor Ramon. These have got to be my guys. And The Undertaker. And yeah, there were some pretty dark years for a while there, where the product didn't do very well. Some of that was that it sucked, and some of it was just wrestling in general sucked at that time. As we will see in some of the bad moments from Fall Brawl 95. But some of it was just, growing pains. It was, here's a new batch of people, we got to get people invested in them. And those people ended up running the Attitude Era. And also, from that same generation, we got guys coming in, Steve Austin, The Rock, and you had the most explosive period in professional wrestling history. So, why not do that again? Vince McMahon at one point knew he had to change things in order to be relevant. I guess the difference was the fact that at the time he had WCW nipping at his heels and beating him, and now he's got no competition, so he just, I guess he thinks his shit don't stink because he's surrounded by a bunch of yes men. I don't fucking know. I don't know. We then had a Luke Harper, Braun Strowman, and Bray Wyatt backstage promo. It was good stuff. Then the main event, John Cena defending the United States title against Seth Rollins. There's a big pop for Cena, probably the biggest of the night. And this is something else that pisses me off about WWE, is here we have a crowd that is an atypical casual crowd, and I'm not insulting these people. There's nothing wrong with that. These people are not diehard wrestling fans. And yes, these people need to be catered to some extent, but not to the extent that Vince McMahon does. This company tries to live and die by the casual fans. No, you should try to live and die by your diehard fans. And this is a rant I've gone on so many times in the past, and I get sick of saying it, but it needs to be said again. Keep your actual fan base happy. the people who are paying $9.99 every month for the network, the people who are the diehard fans, the people who know the business, know what's going on, the smart fans, keep those people happy. You want to make a product that they enjoy, so they get their friends who are other diehard wrestling fans who've maybe given up on WWE and said, hey, I know you still love wrestling, you watch Ring of Honor, you watch all this other stuff, you got to see what's going on Raw. It's actually been really good. And then in turn, these people turn around and tell their non-wrestling fans, hey, you remember back in the day you used to watch wrestling? Dude, you need to watch it again. They're doing some great shit on Monday night. And your fans are your biggest advertiser. Why they don't know this, I don't know. I really don't know. Vince McMahon knew that at one point, and he doesn't now. I don't know if he's senile. I don't fucking know. I really don't. Rollins came into the ring. When he came to the ring, he was kind of limping, still selling from last night, which was a nice touch. Cena got the win. It was a good match. There was another superplex into a Falcon Arrow moment. One of the worst part though was the end, where my brain just stopped working. What's his name? Rollins hit a frog splash, which Cena basically no-sold. The count got to 2. He kind of did this backflip, picked Rollins up into an AA, hit the AA, got the win. I guess one thing WWE is doing is they are consciously not having people kick out of finishers as often, because that's been happening so much. So they're working against that, and okay, fine. I'm not completely against that. Whatever. But that AA is such a shitty move. But, I mean, he just a picture-perfect frog splash. Eddie Guerrero was smiling down from the heavens at that. And John Cena was just like, nope, I'm John Cena, with his fucking smug-ass face. I'm the jock that can do no wrong. And all you stupid bitches who like me are ignorant. So, after the match, Corporate Kane gets on the Tron and makes a veiled threat at Seth Rollins. When his music hits, the lights go red. Demon Kane comes up through the ring and eventually pulls Rollins down into the hole, straight into hell. Then some smoke comes out of the hole. And that's how it ends. So, and as I talk about this episode, I kind of get angrier. Overall, I think this was actually a pretty darn good episode of Raw. There was some great stuff in there. Actually, I really enjoyed Corporate Kane stuff. The New Day was fantastic. Paige's pipe bomb and Nikki's response were great. There was some decent wrestling. The John Cena win over Seth Rollins sucked, but I mean, it was what it was. And the most egregious thing was the fucking Big Show Cesaro match. And that damn near ruined the entire show. But, overall I enjoyed it. And I thought they did some things that were different in the show, which I thought was good. So that was Raw. There were 2 really cool things going on in the network. There are a couple new shows. One is Legends with JBL, where he sits down and almost does these U-Shoot-esque interviews with people. And the first one he did was Eric Bischoff. And it was a 2-part, 1-hour interviews. Basically, it was done in one sitting, you can tell. And JBL was heaping praise upon Eric Bischoff, saying that, the boom in the late 90s, the Attitude Era, the way that so much happens on wrestling today is all because of Eric Bischoff, which, to some extent is pretty true. I loved this. I thought this was a fantastic interview. I thought Eric Bischoff came off as a pretty nice guy who has been humbled. He realizes he was an arrogant jerk and just kind of told stories the way he remembers them, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. Apparently, there wasn't a whole lot of new ground. He's touched on a lot of these subjects over the years on different interviews, but I enjoyed it, man. I thought it was great. And then there's the other new show, Table for Three, which I watched 2 episodes of that this week because I had not last week had a chance to watch them. There are 3 episodes in. I've watched the second and third. The second one was The New Day, and the third one was called Diva Legends. The New Day one was... the show is they get 3 people to sit down and have a meal together and talk. It's an interesting concept. I actually really like the concept. The New Day was fantastic. Those guys are hilarious. It just... Please, take my money. They're so good. And then the Diva Legends had Medusa, a.k.a. Alundra Blaze, Molly Holly, and Ivory. And it was fantastic. Poor Molly Holly kind of got overshadowed through this whole thing between Medusa and Ivory because they are both very bombastic people, I guess you could say. But this was great. They all kind of, especially Ivory though, they all, kind of dissed the whole term diva, and they talked up actual women's wrestling. And there was discussion of the whole throwing the belt into the trash that Medusa did, and it was fantastic. These are 2 shows that are really good, and this is the kind of thing I really am enjoying from the WWE Network. It makes me feel like I'm getting my money's worth. I mean, in reality, NXT is worth the price of admission. But these are freaking great. And, it's the thing that the network needs to do. They need to do, keep coming up with original content like this. And they've got this Breaking Ground coming up, which is going to be kind of a behind-the-scenes look at NXT. And I'm really looking forward to that. But they do need to start putting up some of the older stuff again. They need to start adding episodes of WCW Saturday Night. I think that would be great, going back into the early 80s when it was, the Crockett Promotions, and it was NWA, and TBS used to have 2 Saturday shows. There was one early in the morning and the one in the early evening, late afternoon. They need to put that stuff online. If I'm not mistaken, they own a lot of the back catalog of AWA stuff. They need to start putting that up there. They need to really become this repository of great shows. They need to put up the Coliseum home videos. They need to do the old Superstars. I think they've already got all or almost all of the Saturday Night's main events up. But they need to start putting up new stuff. And what they should do is, every season or so, start, say, hey, we're adding, X number of new episodes or old episodes of this, and highlight that every month. And in fact, that's what they should do, is every month start, adding more of something. And when they do, they start, talking about that in that particular month. That would be great. It might entice more people. You might even get some of those older fans that stopped watching when WCW went out of business. Maybe we can get some of those guys and girls back. And so so those are a couple great shows on the network. I'm looking forward to seeing what they've got to do later on. And so that's it for the current stuff going on. Now we're going to go to the Around the Ring flashback, which is every week I'm going to watch an old episode of Monday Nitro or a pay-per-view. And I got this idea after there was the week that was the 20th anniversary of Monday Nitro, and I watched the first episode. And I decided, you know what, this was kind of fun. So why don't I every week watch the next episode of Nitro? And so after the second episode, it was going into Fall Brawl 95, so I decided, well, we'll just watch Fall Brawl. And I was supposed to review this last week, but did not get to it. So we're going to talk about it this week. So this was WCW Fall Brawl War Games. This aired on September 17th, 1995. We had Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan on commentary. And I love Tony Schiavone. I think he's great. And there were lots of times in between the matches throughout the show, they would come back to Heenan and Schiavone. They would turn away from their monitors and talk to each other, look at the camera, and do some stuff in between matches. First match was Brian Pillman, Flying Brian, against Johnny B. Bad. And the winner of this match was going to get a shot at the U.S. title on an upcoming episode of WCW Saturday Night. Johnny B. Bad, also known as Mark Marrow, was super over. I don't really know why. I mean, the guy was good in the ring, but his gimmick sucked. Nick Patrick was the ref, and that's the guy who's, the way he counts three, or counts the pinfall, really irks the hell out of me, and I finally got his name on this one, is Nick Patrick. He was one of the main WCW refs. In some of this match, Flying Brian just didn't seem to be trying very hard, and it was weird. It's not that I'm in shape, but this was, in a lot of this match, he just looked like he didn't give a fuck, and I don't know how much of this was after his injury and whatnot. It was a 20-minute time limit match. The time limit was reached, and then the ref told the announcer, who is that "let's get ready to rumble," that guy, told him, hey, the executive committee tells me there has to be a winner. So they go into sudden death overtime, and Johnny B. Bad wins. Johnny B. Bad's music is fucking awful. This is a pretty good match, man. It makes me think definitely higher of Johnny B. Bad, at least as an in-ring performer. His gimmick was kind of lame. Basically a boxer who looks like Little Richard and named after a Chuck Berry song, and his music was just god-awful. We then had Ric Flair, a backstage interview with Mean Gene, talking about his upcoming match with Arn Anderson. Mean Gene asks him, do you hate Arn Anderson? And Flair says, no, that's the problem. I love Arn Anderson, but I'm going to beat the crap out of him. We then had Cobra versus Sergeant Craig Pitbull Pittman. So Cobra comes out first, and he's in military looking stuff, and then some dude comes out and distracts him. Well, while this is going down, Pittman comes from the rafters looking like he's rappelling down. Very short match. Pittman gets a win with the armbar submission move. It was pretty fucking awful, just gotta say. There was then a video of Paul Orndorff after he had lost a match, him just backstage in his dressing room having a complete mental breakdown, conniption fit, screaming, I don't know who I am anymore. It was kind of cringeworthy and kind of funny all at the same time. And then Gary Spivey comes in, who at the time apparently he did like kind of a psychic hotline thing. He had infomercials, and he tells Mr. Wonderful that he is something special. He's Mr. Wonderful. It ends with Paul Orndorff saying, I am Mr. Wonderful. I am Mr. Wonderful. Here is my note from watching this. Holy shit, this is awful. And I gotta agree with that. It was fucking awful. We then had Diamond Dallas Page versus the Renegade for the World Television Championship. The Renegade is a pathetic ripoff of the Ultimate Warrior. This was when DDP was early on, full heel mode, treating his Kimberly, the Diamond Doll, like she was just a piece of meat, who at the time was his real wife, his actual wife. He also came to the ring with some dude named Max Muscle. It was DDP did what he could with the match. The Renegade was terrible. And I almost hate saying that, because a year after he was let go, he committed suicide. After he was let go from WCW in 1999. So it's a horrible ending to his story. But he was not good in the ring at all. DDP won. Basically what had happened is Renegade was out of the ring. He was climbing back into the ring. Max Muscle grabbed him for a second. DDP hit a diamond cutter and got the win. Was TV champion. You know, it was what it was. DDP got the best out of him that he could. Harlem Heat then had a match for the World Tag Team Championships, going up challenging Buckhouse Buck and Dirty Dick Slater. This was a pretty slow match. Slater and Buck were a couple of old school guys, and it was very kind of brawly, very slow, lots of rest holds. Harlem Heat got the win after Colonel Parker, who was Buck and Slater's manager, and since this is Fall Brawl War Games, there are 2 rings set up on the floor. The match is going on in one ring. Well, in the other ring, Sherry Martel, who was Harlem Heat's manager, and Colonel Parker get in the ring, and they've been kind of having this budding romance going. They end up making out, which was actually really gross. And then, as this is going on, the Nasty Boys run out to the ring and hit, I want to say it's Slater with his own boot in the face, and Harlem Heat gets win, new tag team champions. Mean Gene interviews Parker, Buck, and Slater on the stage after the match. Parker just eventually shoos them off and saying that he's in love with Sherry, and it was just not good. You know, it's funny. WCW was known for having some pretty bad entrance music at times. Harlem Heat's was not one of them. Harlem Heat's entrance music was fucking awesome. That ice, dun 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 dun, cold. That was good stuff, man. Such a good theme. We then had an interview with Mean Gene, interviewing Arn Anderson, and then they showed a nice little video package from bits with Arn Anderson, the build-up to this Arn Anderson-Ric Flair feud. And then really there was the match of the night. Arn Anderson versus Ric Flair. This should have been the main event. This was fantastic. This was just classic Arn Anderson, classic Ric Flair. And they did a fantastic job building up to this throughout the whole program. But also at the beginning of the match, they talked about wrestlers coming out to watch the match. And they had Flying Brian and the American Males ringside. They had Colonel Parker and Big Bubba ringside and another area. So they had all these guys outside watching this match. Which was nice. It made it feel important. And what then happened? My brain stopped working as I'm trying to read my notes. So it comes down to Anderson got the win. He hit the DDT after Flair had Anderson on the mat, and the ref was looking at Anderson. Brian Pillman jumps up on the apron, starts jaw-jacking with Flair. Pillman hits Flair. Flair hits Pillman, which Pillman falls on the apron. Pillman jumps back up, and basically, it kind of almost hits an enziguri. He kicks Flair in the back of the head, which then allowed Arn Anderson to nail a beautiful DDT and get the win. The place went nuts, but what was funny is throughout the match, they were cheering Arn Anderson like he's the babyface, but they were also, cheering Flair, and Anderson got a lot of boos when he won. But this was fantastic. It was, when I talk about being a fan of WCW, this is the kind of stuff I think about. I don't think about the Dungeon of Doom and this awful shit that was in the main event. I don't think about that hokey stuff with Colonel Parker or that Pittman guy. I think of Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, the kind of matches they had. I think about the classic matches Sting had, and that's the stuff I really think about. So this was the high moment of the night. This was fantastic. I mean, classic. We then had a Kevin Sullivan and Dungeon of Doom vignette that was just cringeworthy and awful. Then there was a War Games vignette, just talking about the whole build-up of the whole thing. There was a backstage interview with the Hulkamaniacs, which was the team of Hulk Hogan, Sting, Randy Macho Man Savage, and the total package Lex Luger. So I'm watching this, and the whole thing that I really watching this interview took away. It's I'm just sitting there and looking at Hogan and thinking how out of place Hulk Hogan was in WCW. Savage to some extent, but really he fit in a lot better because he was so fucking good. But Hulk Hogan stood out like a sore thumb. Because yes, WCW had some awful gimmicks in the mid 90s, early 90s, but they were always known for really good wrestling. And Hulk Hogan is not a good wrestler, at least not in America. Apparently he got his ass in Japan, he could do some good stuff in the ring. But this was just... It was just fascinating because you look at it and you're like, okay, Sting belongs here, Luger belongs here. Savage can fit in. Hogan sticks out like a sore thumb. And not in a good way. So then we get the main event, which is War Games, the Dungeon of Doom versus the Hulkamaniacs. The Dungeon of Doom in this match was Zodiac, who is Brutus Beefcake, who is just fucking awful. The only thing Brutus Beefcake ever did that was worth a shit was when he was tag team champions of the WWE with Greg Valentine, and that phenomenal match they had against the British Bulldogs at WrestleMania 2. It's the only thing worthwhile that guy ever did in his career. And the sad thing about the Zodiac gimmick is he's wearing his normal tights. The only difference is he has his hair up in some weird-ass ponytail, and his face is painted. And he's acting like a tool. It's the only thing that makes this whole gimmick different. It's like, motherfucker, you can't even bother getting some new tights? Christopher Daniels slightly changes his gimmick when he turns heel. He gets completely new tights and ring gear, whole 9 yards. But you can't be bothered to do that. You don't have any of that WWF money still laying around by that point? Or shit, I mean, you're getting that Ted Turner WCW money. You don't have enough of that to buy some new ring gear? Fucking A. Anyway, so it's Zodiac, Shark, Meng, and... Zodiac, Shark, Meng, and Kamala, the Ugandan giant. That is the team of the Dungeon of Doom. So the match starts with Sting and Shark. So the way War Games would work is you have two guys go in, and they're in there for 5 minutes. There's a coin toss. Whoever wins the coin toss sends in the next contestant. And then 2 minutes later, the other team sends someone in, and every 2 minutes, they flip-flop from which team keeps sending people in. Once everyone is in, you have to win the match by submission. And it's 2 rings. It's a great concept. Why WWE does not bring it back? Oh, well, they're like, well, if we put 2 rings in, we lose space for seating. Well, whatever, motherfucker. You just charge a little bit more for that one. Especially for ringside seats. Jesus Christ, let's give us something different to look at, please. And there is a cage that comes down over the 2 rings that has a ceiling, and it's actually a pretty short ceiling. No, you can't stand up on the top rope and fully stand up. So we start off with Sting and the Shark. Zodiac then comes in, then Randy Savage, then Kamala, then Lex Luger, and in the process, there's a moment where Luger was going to hit, I want to say Zodiac, and Zodiac moves out of the way and ends up hitting Savage. So Savage and Luger start fighting. Sting tries to break that up. Ming comes in, And Ming was awesome. He was great as Haku. He was fantastic as Ming. Ming was great. He was the only thing in that team, that Dungeon of Doom team, that just didn't suck a big donkey dick. And then Hogan came in. One of Bobby Heenan's best lines of the night was, it's kind of like Bosnia in a cage. Bobby Heenan was on fire, man. That guy was just so good. There was one point when a couple of, I forget who it was, but they just sent Shark flying into the cage, and the whole cage looked like it was about to buckle. Shark was a big fucking guy. I mean, this guy was huge. Not that tall, but he was a fat motherfucker. And the fact that that cage held together was amazing. Hulkamaniacs got the win with the absolute worst looking camel clutch I have ever seen, and Hulk Hogan applied it to Zodiac, and it was just excuse me. Actually, it's apropos that I yawn at that moment, because that sucked. One of the stipulations in the match was that Hogan would get 5 minutes with Kevin Sullivan in the ring afterwards, and so that happens. The Giant comes out. When the Giant gets in the ring, instead of stepping through the ropes, he grabs the top of the cage and just gingerly jumps over the ropes. And then in between the two rings, he just jumped over the ropes again. I mean, we forget now. You watching Big Show now, he's lumbering and he's so much heavier than he used to be. You forget this guy used to fly around. He was so good. He would do missile drop kicks off the top rope. I mean, he was good. And you see him now and it's just sad. But he beats down Hogan, and Giant basically holds his head and does this thing that looks, you're supposed to give the impression that he breaks Hogan's neck. And the show goes off the air with Heenan laughing like a madman. Because, Bobby Heenan loathed Hulk Hogan. Loathed him, probably still does. And I don't know how much of that is real life heat and how much of that is just heat from characters. But that's how we went off. And that was it, man. That was Fall Brawl 1995. And next week we will talk about the next episode of Monday Nitro. And that's pretty much it for this week. I am going to leave you with a song of the week. The song of the week this week comes from a band from Rome, Italy. The band is called Lags. They have an album coming out in a couple months called Pilot. And they have a just fan-freaking-tastic track on there called Queen Bee. So that's how we're going to end it this week. And please make sure to give us a listen next week. Thank you all very much for listening. We do appreciate it. And as Jerry Springer always says, take care of yourselves and each other.
You've been listening to Around the Ring on the Spark Radio Network.
All you have to do is change your point of view and believe.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. Damn! Woo!
This sucks more than anything that I've ever sucked before.
What? It's for charity.